Hi everyone, Kim Schofield here. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. This month I am excited to be a guest designer for Stampotique Originals. I will be using a bunch of their stamps on a number of projects for the entire month of February. So thank you to them for having me be a guest designer for them. Really excited to showcase some of their artwork. So today we're going to be creating an art journal page, just a single page, and I am working in my Dina Wakley journal. This is a journal that she came out with a few years ago, and there's a bunch of different materials in the journal. There's some watercolor pages, kind of heavy stock pages, and then these canvas pages. Not canvas, burlap pages. There are canvas pages in here as well. So I'm going to be working on this burlap page. I'm also using some cardboard. So that's the theme for this week, is to use some cardboard in your art. So I just took some cardboard off of a box that I had that I was throwing out, and I'll be using that. You can also see that I put a protective piece of paper, just some scrap paper, behind that piece of burlap because it is burlap. Obviously, my paint, anything I put on there is going to go right through. You could prep this with some gesso if you wanted to, but I didn't feel it was necessary for this particular project because all I'm really doing is trying to add a hint of color to the background. So I'm creating a little bit of a scene with this little stamp of the two little boys, which reminds me of I have two sons myself. And so that as soon as I saw this image, I was immediately, I thought of them and thought this would be such a sweet image to add to a background, create an art journal page with. So all I'm trying to do is kind of get this idea of the sky and some grass. So I'm really just adding some color. So gesso would have been, created that white on the background and may have been a little bit challenging to cover up. And I really wanted that paint to just, kind of soak through, give me just this little bit of color. So you can see I'm not really being careful here at all. Anyone can do this. This is really simple. So I am working with a Dina Wakley brush, one of her thick, this is a very wide brush. So these have great bristles. You can really kind of beat them up and they will take a beating and keep on working. So I've had this brush for years and I love them. So, and I think, I'm not even sure if they still make these, but you can get the Ranger brushes, which are going to be the same thing. You can get a pack of brushes. So very similar. So all I'm doing is continuing to add color. I am using Dina Wakley paints. They're sold in a small squeeze bottle. And on some of this, I put some out on a non-stick craft sheet that you can see over to the right-hand side there, because that'll clean up that paint easily. And then some I just went ahead and put directly onto the burlap to get a little bit more color on there. Kind of get that paint applied maybe a little more thick, a little thicker than before. And then I'm bringing in a little bit, this is kind of a soft gray color. I think this is called, I don't know, I'll put all the links down below. It might be Elephant, I think is the name of it. But I just want a little bit of lightness there, almost like some highlights on the edges. And so now I'm growing impatient. I don't want to put it out on the craft sheet. Let's just go straight to the burlap. And that actually gives me a little bit better coverage. And as long as you don't do too much, it spreads pretty easily. And that's the thing about working on burlap. It's, it's not like paper. So you're not going to get this. It's going to kind of tend to soak immediately in, and you really got to move it pretty quickly to keep that color moving. So it's not going to react like it would on a piece of paper. So adding a little more of that purple, I really love that purple color, it's gorgeous. So I set that aside to dry. You really can't do much heat setting with this because you would, you could melt, kind of warp and melt the burlap. So I just let that dry. It did take a little bit of time to dry, but not too much. And so now I have some Dina Wakley stencils, and I've got some black paint. I really like adding some kind of dark neutral. Now, what I'm going to do I'm going to say probably don't do this. Don't do as I say, or don't do what I say, don't do as I do. So I'm using a baby wipe to apply some color, which if I was doing this on a regular cardstock or paper, it would work really well. It gets a little watered down with the baby wipe. I love using a baby wipe with stencils and paint because you can get a little bit smoother coverage. This got a little blobby, but it ended up working out fine. I did forget to put a piece of paper down there, but that's okay. I'll just add to the next page there. So all I really want is a little bit of, a little neutral in the background, and black is a great color for that. Black, gray, white, even a brown. I don't know, just adding that black kind of grounds the whole thing. I love it. I like adding some, I love that neutral color there. And so that's all I'm looking to do, creating another layer. Art journal pages are all about creating layers. A lot of this is actually going to be covered up, so you're just going to see hints of that black peeking through and of those colors coming through. So I'm not looking to have something very precise or to even something that's super visual. It's just the hint of this color. So even with these numbers, you're not going to really see, oh, that's a 3, that's a 2, etc. But you might see a little portion of it. And it's just that kind of I don't know, that design element that's in the background of a page that I think kind of helps the eye. So I tend to like to do work in 3s. So if I've got these little squares, let me put it on my page 3 times. If I've got the numbers or any other design, let me use that 3 times. And then of course, I'm going to want to set this aside and let that dry again. And that won't take too long. So now I've got my cardboard and I've created some grass, and you can see what I did. All I did was take this thick piece of cardboard and tore it in half. And so what I created were these little hills or grass and then a little sun. And then I did use a stapler to staple some of those things together. So basically I hand cut a round shape, and then I had this little extra long strip of cardboard, and I stapled that around the circle shape, and then I just hand tore a few little hill type shapes. And I'm going to come back in with my paints and just go ahead and apply some of that paint directly over the cardboard. So I'm not, I did dry my brush off that was sitting in some water, and I want to make sure I'm not being, I don't have a very wet brush. Because I don't want to, make my cardboard super soggy. So you'll just, if you take it out of the water, make sure that you use a paper towel to squeeze that excess water out before you go ahead and apply the paint. And you can see I'm being very precise again. Oh, I'm kidding, I'm not. This is really just putting some color down on that cardboard so that it's not just the brown color, but you'll end up having this hint of grass and the sun. And that kind of teal color was a little too much for me, a little too bright for the grass. Probably would be a great color for leaves on some flowers. But I'm really just picking up a little bit of whatever's left on my craft sheet and just adding that onto the cardboard, and then I'll let that sit aside and dry. Now, I am a huge fan of the color brown and of earthy colors. And so Gathered Twigs happens to be one of my favorite distress ink colors. And I've got a foam pad, and all I'm doing is dragging that color across the raised edges of the cardboard. And so that'll kind of pick that up, and you'll get a little bit of that brown color on the top. And then I'll go around all those edges to make sure that you've got a little bit of a darkness there. So here's where I tore my paper a little bit, but that's okay. I can just staple it back. So I like to have that, kind of that shiny element there of the staples holding all those pieces together. It's just another element to add onto an art journal page. So again, going around all the edges, and that really, when you add that brown, it deepens up those colors. Takes it away from being, too bright, and really gives it a nice earth tone. And you can see all of the little ridges and all of the tears in the cardboard. So I really like that. And so here's where you can see I've got the green there on my page, and then I'm going to go ahead and, add that cardboard. So here's my image, and let me first apologize for my camera going the wrong way there. I didn't even notice until I uploaded the videos. But I did color my image from Stampotique with Copic markers, and then I went ahead and cut everything out. I just hand cut that out. And I again have a protective sheet down because now I'm going to be gluing all my elements down. And I'm using some Wendy Vecchi Perfect cardstock adhesive, card adhesive, I think she calls it. This stuff is awesome. Love this glue. So it's a liquid glue, comes in this nice little squeeze jar, and it's awesome. The bottle there, it holds so quickly and really well. Love it. So that's what I'm going to be using to attach all of my elements to the page. And you'll want this kind of glue because you really want that glue to adhere onto that burlap. So I do have a sentiment also from Stampotique that I stamped on a piece of paper and just cut the elements out and attach that to my page. And so that is it for me today. Here's some close-up photos of my project. Please head on over to my blog for more photos, close-up photos, and links. There's links down below. Visit the Stampotique store. They have tons of stamps to choose from, tons of styles. So I'm sure you'll enjoy shopping there. Thanks so much. Happy crafting.